Good morning and welcome to this morning's short webinar. In this Microsoft Zero Trust Adoption Framework, we will continue our line of webinars about adoption framework, cloud adoption framework, and well-architected framework. And my name is Sasha. I'm an Azure MVP and Security MVP, as well as Regional Director. I'm Microsoft Certified Training and Regional Lead. And currently for the Informator. Roughly agenda it's here how to start. We'll see the function areas and then we will concentrate on rapidly modernized pillars and see some example architecture and main principle of the framework and how to actually start. It's all about the starting. So don't hesitate to start. Don't hesitate to use to look at the previous the past webinars about the cloud adoption framework. They have a lot of plenty of useful information, but the main thing is to start doing the zero trust and adopting the cloud the right way. So how to start zero trust actually starts before we actually start talking about IT, and that is main thing. Zero trust actually requires approval at the highest level, and that means the strategy that security strategy that has to be aligned to business outcomes. Of course, we can't go to the cloud just because of it is fancy, or because we want to be in the cloud because everyone else is, or because our business competitors are. We want to be in the cloud and want to be in the cloud the right way because we have to take something out of the cloud, and that is the something that will be either less cost or better agility or resiliency, availability, or whatever. So very important part is also communicating well and aligning with the security strategy to business outcomes. So we have to get something out of it, and of course the C-level and the manager executives are the ones who are in fact responsible for giving us the green light, of course. But then the zero trust is also something that is translated to every member of the organization. But the key stakeholders are in fact the C-level executives. So the CEOs or MOs or IOs, whatever these are responsible for business, marketing, vision, and execution for IT as a whole. And we can't talk without these people. We have to start there. Once we've implemented, once we started the conversation, then of course we need to be very brief. We need to start somewhere, and this is where this zero trust architecture functional areas can help us. So the less complicated it is, the most intuitive is, the better outcome will be. Just to remind us that there are a couple of functional areas. There are zero trust policies that are in there. The executives and managers and the strategists doesn't have to know very nitty-gritty details about it, but need to know at least how to what it is, what are we trying to achieve, what will happen if we don't align to zero trust principles. And of course, the zero trust principle is in fact, and zero trust adoption framework is a part of the cloud adoption framework, and afterwards of the well architected framework as well. Since we are mentioning cloud adoption framework and well architected framework, we mentioned also in previous webinars that the cloud adoption framework is for someone, for the organization who want to start with the cloud, or that have already begin with the cloud adoption journey, while the well-architected framework is mostly targeted to the organizations that are already there. I agree in part, but I also agree that, and I'm strongly believe that cloud adoption framework has a ton a ton of information that is excellent and crucial for organizations that are in the middle of the cloud adoption, and that they and for the organization that have already adopted the cloud. So there are a lot of very useful and critical information. Why I believe so? Because the cloud is a constant journey. We are constantly something updating in cloud. There are new features, new products, new resources that we are integrating in there, that we're deploying. So we need that document throughout our organizational life. And for example, just to name one, naming and tagging strategies described in the cloud adoption framework. So I think it's crucial even after we are in the cloud, as well as the well architected framework. So and there's one also very good reason why is that, because these adoption frameworks are based on the real practices of Microsoft customers, clients, partners. So these are proven methods how to do things. Zero Trust architecture functional areas are here, of course, throughout our adoption journeys, framework journeys. We will mention the Microsoft 365 in more detail in the later subsequent webinars, and Azure as well. But here we are touching the base with and setting the foundation about the functional areas. And these are the zero trust policies that are in between, and other functional areas like identities, endpoints, infrastructure, apps, and data. And we will talk briefly about each of these right there. Just to recap, zero trust adoption ties very well, connects very tightly to the cloud adoption framework, and we can say that this path, this journey can be also defined in these areas as well, where we define strategy, plan for it, then establish a readiness status, and then begin adoption phase and govern and manage. So not only these six pillars are present in the cloud adoption framework, but actually 9. And I suggest that you also take a look at the past webinars and also the resources that have been presented there, like Cloud Adoption Framework as well. Well, the framework, what it is just a, any framework, but here we talk about the Zero Trust one, is a part of the larger governance model that, in fact, is we want to and try to establish the hierarchy of various statutory, regulatory, procedural requirements. And the framework and the cloud adoption and zero trust framework and Azure M365, all frameworks are here just to you can look at them like signs on the roads. So instead of wandering in the desert, whether to go left and right, backwards or forward, the adoption frameworks are best practices, patterns, and anti-patterns, the advice or signs where to go in which direction, so we are not strained when later when we are already in the business, when we adopt the cloud. So the cloud is okay, the cloud is agile, the cloud is cool, let's say. We can deploy and delete the things very fast and in a couple of seconds or minutes, but we have to start correctly. If we don't start that correctly, then these resources that we could have deleted and redeployed in a minute or in a second can't be done suddenly or can't be removed so easily. Why? Because tomorrow we will have them in a production, and it's very hard to decommission a virtual network or SQL server or database or a virtual machine once they are in the production. So we need to plan accordingly. So I would say 80% of planning and 20% of execution will be very useful. And a very high level overview of the main zero trust adoption phases that align with the framework. So zero trust adoption framework actually aligns to the cloud adoption framework as well. But I would say the main zero trust adoption phases and pillars are these four. So security posture modernizing it, securing the hybrid and remote work, and identifying data, because if we don't know what kind of data we have, then we don't know what kind of protection and what level of protection should we place and on what data. And then after that, we have to comply with the regulatory and compliance requirements and the laws and regulations that we have. Let's take a quickly a look at the modernizing the security posture and each of the steps in few lines of it and notes. So modernizing security posture, it's all about the framework. So these are of course the larger steps, high level steps to do, but set up the direction or the framework, what to look for and or after, or where to go and where to focus to achieve maximum results in shorter time. So stage one, there are multiple stages. So identifying risks, for example, to the organization, gaps in security posture, we have to be very critical of ourselves and talk about the regulatory requirements. So banking or health industry or state industries have their own regulatory compliance and requirements that will also govern how we will implement the cloud. How these things influence on the implementation. For example, some industries have 7, 5, 10, 15 years of, for example, of record holding, and we have to ensure that our infrastructure can support this, and that we are compliant and with it. So in the stage two, we develop a response readiness phase. Inventory, we do the inventory of the digital estate, and actually capture the status in compliance manager as we start working. And of course, document any shadow IT, for example, and it is very crucial to do so. We don't have to buy, for example, all of the licenses at once or upfront. We can, for example, start with the Defender of Cloud that has a free tier. Then we can gradually move to the pay tier and expand our or modernize our security posture, for example. But at least the first steps are very important, because these are then suggesting in where to go or what to focus. So that will be also the case with the compliance manager or the secure scores. The secure scores are not here just for, like a friend of mine said, for filling up the empty space and to make it look better and more colorful. The secure scores, we have a lot of them: compliance score, infrastructure, identity secure score, and other secure scores are here to help us to track our security posture over time, and to see whether our security posture, whether our security status is posture is declining or is improving, if there are any gaps or hills or peaks, or any movements, if there are any trends, then and if there are slow, that will be very hard to follow. So we have to have a look at all of these things that are free, that are there available to us, and take advantage of them as well. But the most important part is also, this is just a suggestion, to also identify the stakeholders, also give the people the right permissions to do so, but identify the people who will do all of these tasks that we've seen previously. Delegation of duties, of course, but also separation of duties in Azure. Not all of these components or stakeholders will be present in every company, of course, because we have companies that have 20, 50 people. We have companies that have several thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. But roughly, the framework, the poster, the typical stakeholders are named here. Secure remote and hybrid work. How does it work? First, after we completed stage one, where we verified and seen the identity with who has the need for strong authentication, that doesn't mean that we have to see who needs multi-factor authentication. I think everyone needs multi-factor authentication because multi-factor authentication will will resolve 99.9% of the identity related problems, which are nine today, the real problems, because today the identity is the security boundary, and you don't have to buy expensive FIDO keys at once in the first time. Just or take for example, the free Ubiquiti Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, or Google Authenticator. Whatever you do, there are free tools there. Use them, because MFA enables actually solves the 99.9% of our headaches related to breaches, and then meaning strong authentication should be applied, for example, to different levels of authentication, of strength of authentication should be applied, for example, for roaming users, the one who visit other countries or that are bringing their laptops around, and for the one that are always doing their job on premises. So this is how we can granularly approach the problem. There are some advices. There's some advice here as well. For example, in stage two, register devices with Azure AD. We have two levels. We don't have to have all the levels, all the devices joined. We can register them. Why? Because then we have the better possibility of controlling them, not in the mean that in a way that the employees usually mean, okay, now our uh, organization and company will read my emails. That, of course, is not true, but we can set security policies and prevent some bad things to happen. Because, for example, when you decide to move to the Defender for Cloud plan, for example, first one of the service plan, then you can get the Defender for Endpoint license for free, and that is where a lot of companies are doing and increasing their security posture. I think I have to go back a little bit to the stage one and mention that also you have a very nice multi-factor authentication adoption campaign that is downloadable on Microsoft download website, um, and it includes emails and posters and awareness material that you can also distribute and raise awareness, because I think the education and the awareness is one of the most important part, because the weakest link are always we users, and if a user don't know what is out there, don't if a user don't know how to recognize a phishing email, if it clicks on a link, then it is game over. So the users don't have to have PhD in computer science, but they need certainly to be a little bit more educated about that. For example, if we have some older applications on-prem, then we use appropriate technologies like app proxy, for example, and also use these devices to that are enrolled, for example, or join to Azure Active Directory to implement some security policies. And as well, monitoring device configuration drift is also something that is not very burdensome, but it's also very useful to figure out what have been changed. And at the end, in the stage four, for example, we can implement passwordless authentication, a little bit better authentication, that is a part of the MFA, with some other tools. And For example, FIDO keys, let's say, could be taken into account. Here, the stakeholders are as well the sample ones, device management architects or app management leads. It is not just about these stakeholders and the roles. It's about also functional areas that should be led differently and tackled. So don't take this slide just as it is and say that these are all the roles that have to be here, or this is how it's supposed to be. No, it is a suggestion, but also identifies the functional roles or the responsibility or areas that we can tackle in adoption phase. There we have also a very important part of identifying the data. So first, even if you do it very roughly, then it's better than doing nothing. So you don't have to start identifying immediately all different types and levels. I would say that it's easier. The easiest part to do is to identify the most critical, the most sensitive, the top secret part of the data, and we all know what that could be on top of our heads. So, for example, like payrolls or personally identifiable information, or I don't know, healthcare records in the healthcare industry, or bank records in the banking industry. Some contracts, for example, if we are working in the architecture or civil engineering firm or whatever company. So these are the products or types of files that deserve the immediate attention, and then we can start and work on that as well. So discovering, you can't protect the data until you know what data you have and what kind of data you have, and then you can apply the appropriate level of protection. This is what our countries, governments are doing. So we have sensitive, we have secret, we have top secret information. So and that is exactly what we are doing in our companies. Of course, uh, discovering that sensitive data is crucial, but it's also crucial discovering these non-sanctioned SaaS apps or actually any applications that users might be doing, because users might not be knowledgeable about any software flaws or vulnerabilities out there. Um, that these applications might have that might degrade our security posture. So it's also very important identifying all the software that we have. And then once we've done it with a stage one, we will develop the classification schema and set the labels. The best the advice is to use from 5 to 10 labels per at max. Well, 10 labels at max. I would say 5 is an average. That is quite okay per department, and you can also set these labels to be visible and available to the department only, while you can have hundreds of them for different departments. Then each department, the suggestion is to use 5 to max 10, because everything over the 10, it's very difficult to classify. And some basic and very basic DLP policies should be in place. For example, like putting restriction to the where we will prevent sharing the data with our direct competitors' domain names, for example. That will be most probably, I don't know, maybe most easiest to do, the easiest way to do, because it will then not interrupt the daily business. Then we can introduce more and more complex policies. These DLP policies can't be, shouldn't be implemented in 1 2 couple of days. Actually, it will take a couple of months of fine tuning and defining these policies. But these are very, very important policies, because the roughly, to some researchers, around 70% of the breaches are inside breaches. So data loss prevention policies will prevent our data to be to be sent elsewhere without deliberately or just by accident. And after we've done it, then we set protection to labels and introduce automatic labeling once we are very comfortable. Once we're very comfortable with that, and of course extend these DLP policies across Microsoft 365 across the devices as well if we have applicable um, license and so on. And that means that we can extend these to the endpoints and protect all our organization as well. Some stakeholders are here, like information protection manager or investigation and audit roles personnel, or compliance or personnel who have compliance roles. Then the next step will be to meet regulatory compliance requirements with the tools that we already have there. Compliance manager is used to assess compliance. Practically, um, these are tools. A lot of these tools are not so complicated to use. These are, I would say, fire and forget. So we are set them up, and then just wait for them to collect the data and see what is there. And it's important to start as soon as possible, and the protection should start as soon as possible. We can't wait for 6 months or 12 months to start protecting the data or the environment. This should be done from the very beginning. And again, also there are some other tools like Content Explorer. Afterwards, in the later phases, we can extend DLP policies to comply with the regulatory compliance requirements. We first, in the previous phase, we just set these DLP policies for very rough recommendations. Now we are refining and retuning these. And then we, in the later stages, involve some automation that include also stricter DLP policies, automatic mandatory labeling, and so on. At the latest stage here as well, we have not Azure Sentinel, but Microsoft Sentinel. The name has been changed recently in the Compliance Manager to where we can use it to assess any regulatory compliance gaps. The stakeholders are here as well: Information Protection Manager, Compliance Manager, audit roles, architectural lead, and domain admins roles leads. These are the personnel who will lead the transformation. For example, the Information Protection Manager is the one who will do the DLP policies or the labeling. There's a lot to do there, so typically we will delegate to someone to do so, because it is very important, very delicate job, and it will take time. So if we try to stuff everything to a one person, or if one person will usually the organization also try to reduce the personnel and overburden their workers. That won't work, because we are talking about security, and then these workers will make mistake eventually, and the security flaws are then only visible when afterwards, when some things happen. This is similar and comparable to the UPSs. Everyone think that UPS is worthless box that is sitting down there and collecting dust, and that is not helping to anyone. And then it becomes evident that it's very important when the electricity goes out once in 10 years or in 15. That is the same thing in here. So we don't see the result of the bad security or policy implementation until something leaks, or until we have the breach, and then start analyze what happened. So preventing or reducing damage from a breached infrastructure, it's also important. And do you know how many companies do we have now from the security standpoint? We have two general companies. We have companies that have been breached already, and we have companies that don't know that they have been breached. It's a little bit humorous approach to the situation of today, where the outcome is, and the bottom line is that today we shouldn't think about if we are going to be breached. We should talk in a way that we think what will happen, what we will do when we are breached, when we get the ransomware, what to do. So eventually, something will happen, and we have to be prepared for that. And of course, we in the process of ensuring, in preparing for that, we will ensure that we absolutely minimize the risks that will lead to such a breach. But the companies that are ready for the breaches to happen are the ones who will survive actually. So the stage one will deal with securing privileged accounts and implementing backup and site recovery and so on. Because and of course that means not just ensuring that we have a backup, but also that we have a failover and failback plan. Testing of these backup procedures, written instrumentation, documentation, what will happen, the same way as the pilots have their documentation in there. So when the bad things happen, they do not try to remember. They have the 4-year college degree for that, but they have the list of the things that will speed up the things when bad things happen. And that means when a breach happens, what to protect, how to get back to a working environment, and so on. Very important part is also segmenting the network and implement a automated patching plan, and also making sure that our backup and protection resiliency is flawless. Prevent or reduce damage from breach protection, which means we can also leverage all the tools today. These are Microsoft has a lot of tools, and these are intertwined. We have a lot of them. The best thing will be to have all of them, but unfortunately we can't have because of the price, because we simply don't have some tools or the need for them. But we have to implement everything that is available there to protect their assets. And that means that Defender for Identity protects the on-premises assets. Office 365 protects the emails and communications and so on, cloud apps, third-party, shadow IT, etc. So in the stage, the XDR tools should be leveraged to protect our environment, as well as there is the Purview Insider risk management that should be also taken into account. All applicable defenders, here is Defender for IT, but I mentioned as well that not every company might have. But proactively hunting for threats would mean, for example, if you don't have a Sentinel yet, then there's advanced threat protection, for example, in 365 that can be used. And there to wrap it up, we have main or fundamental Azure Zero Trust principles. There are some sample architectures, and very briefly, we are ready to call it a day. This is one sample architecture. These sample architecture can be found online in the Microsoft Architecture Center. This is another one that is a little bit bigger one that incorporates other resources as well in areas like Office Locations, Internet, Azure, and in Azure as well. But the simplest Azure Storage Zero Trust principles, the principles of Azure and the elementary ones for each of these elementary areas are these. So protecting data in all three modes. This is the framework. So this is the initial stage where we will start with. Verify user control access and logically separate and aggregate critical data with network controls. And of course, there we have Defender for Storage as well. As we speak with the virtual machines, for example, as we talk about them in this architecture, then we can start applying these zero trust principles for logical isolation. That means also we will implement some RBAC controls or secure then these virtual machine boot components, but also manage encryption very efficiently, as well as configuring the secure access to these machines or workloads. This includes also XDR that extends to machines and other workloads as well. But if we talk about the network connectivity, then VNet zero trust principles also mean that we need to have correct RBAC controls, different security groups, segmentation, and secure traffic to and from the VNet. And for the end, we also have hub zero trust principles that apply to these architectures, which are securing the with firewalls and eventually using any network gateway to route to route traffic to the firewall for inspection. That will be Azure Firewall or application gateway with a web application firewall rule, which has intrusion detection, prevention, and traffic scanning. But nevertheless, these are roughly the couple of principles that we went through in this part. So it is a very large area. We will mention other things in the later webinars as well. We will specifically tackle zero trust deployment with Microsoft 365. And at the end of the year, we will also take a look at the zero trust deployment with Microsoft Azure, and we will deal more with infrastructure with hands-on rather than this framework right there. So thank you for being here today and for following along. Hope this was interesting and informative. This is just a start. It is a framework. The story should continue, and we will continue the story later with 2 webinars that we have scheduled for the rest of the year with Microsoft 365 Zero Trust and more deeply in for the Azure Zero Trust implementation. So thank you a lot for being here today. Have a nice day and stay secure.